It's 20 minutes after the hour of 6 o'clock. Great morning to you, Trinidad and Tobago. Let's move away from Whoopi Goldberg. We have our own things to discuss here. And of course, we've had a very good working relationship with the Venezuelan ambassador, Ambassador Carlos Perez. And he's here with us this morning because his stint as the ambassador to Trinidad and Tobago comes to an end, and I am definitely going to miss him. Let's hope he can put in a good word to the incoming ambassador for me so that we can continue that relationship. Ambassador Perez, good morning to you.
Good morning, Natalie. Thank you very much for the invitation. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
3 years.
3 years, yes.
It's in its last week or two. How has the experience been?
The experience in Trinidad and Tobago has been great, but at the same time intense, from the professional point of view and from a point of view of work. In my personal experience, I enjoyed very much Trinidad. Before the COVID, I have the experience to enjoy the carnival. I love the interaction with the people. I really enjoy my stay here.
Yeah.
But from the professional point of view, was some challenges that I have to face. And especially, at the beginning, the situation with the migrants, of the influx of migrants to Trinidad and Tobago, something that we have to work very hard. But was a great experience, I will say intense, but enjoyable at the same time.
Yeah. And, as an ambassador, you're that diplomatic tie between the two countries.
Yes.
And with the influx of the illegal immigrants, it became a serious issue, not just for Venezuela, but also for Trinidad and Tobago. How did you handle that dispute between the two countries?
Well, the things, I will not say that is dispute. It's a problem that we're facing in Venezuela, and of course with the repercussions to Trinidad and Tobago. I will say that the positive thing after 3 years is the level of collaboration between the government of Venezuela and the government of Trinidad and Tobago to tackle this problem, that have, of course, the origin in Venezuela, and as I say, the repercussions in Trinidad and Tobago. I believe one of the things that maybe has been more complicated or maybe more dramatic is the traffic of persons, especially young women. And in that case, the collaboration and the joint work between, the government of Venezuela and the government of Trinidad and Tobago, especially at the intelligence level, has been very important in order to tackle these criminal organizations and also to face this kind of criminal activity, which is sometimes aberrant, sometimes it's bizarre.
Ambassador, do you find yourself in a unique position of not necessarily being able to discuss these things as openly as you'd like because of the diplomatic channels, because you're dealing with governments and feelings and people, and even though you have Venezuelans who are being trafficked, that here's a country who has taken in 16,000 plus Venezuelans and has taken the decision to help those.
Yes.
Do you find it difficult to discuss these things, from government to government perspectives, just because of how the situation was or is actually?
Well, of course, it's not an easy situation, but it's a real problem that we have here. So it's something that you cannot deny. Something that is very important, and I thank you that you mentioned that, is this collaboration of the government of Trinidad and Tobago within 2019 registered around, exactly 16,523 Venezuelans. This is very important for these Venezuelan nationals that stay here in Trinidad and stay in a legal way. Other than that, what we do is, as I say, in a close collaboration with the government of Trinidad and Tobago, is to try to assist these people that come in illegal situation. We do a responsibility by the embassy, and something that, because unfortunately sometimes these people travel in a very dangerous condition, and under, are deceived, to come to Trinidad and Tobago. And something that we try to do in the best way is to assist these people as soon as they are intersected or reach here, and to organize their return to Venezuela in a safe manner in order that they return home in a safe way until all the security conditions are appropriate.
I know that the pandemic has really changed, just how we do business, just right across
Absolutely.
the length and breadth of the country and the world. Those people who are registered, have they gotten that a re-registration since November, since September, November?
Well, I understand, and according, what we know, that the process has been, this process of re-registration. Some things, I see in the news, but so far, and also from the experience that we receive from the Venezuelan national, the process has been moving, okay for this registration. Of course, the numbers has changed because due to the pandemic, some people has returned, to Venezuela. I don't know if you remember in last year, we have a massive repatriation to Venezuela, around 700 Venezuelans that return by ferry, by economic reasons. But so far the number remains, around the 14, 15,000, that remain here, according to information that we receive.
And how are things in Venezuela? When we had that repatriation last year, it raised a lot of questions about, what the economic circumstances are in Venezuela, because a lot of times when illegal Venezuelans come here, when Venezuelans enter the country illegally, we hear that they are refugees. We keep getting people, pressuring the government to register them as refugees. But with that repatriation, it made me look at the entire situation differently. How are things in Venezuela now that, or since that people choose to return home?
Well, I will say at this particular moment that something which is important, that that matrix of refugees has been dismantled, I will say that in general terms, when the Venezuelans come to Trinidad and Tobago, they come in for economic reasons, okay? They are not refugees, okay, whatsoever. They are basically people that take decisions basically for economic reasons to come to Trinidad and Tobago looking for new opportunities, which is at some point is valid, but also is a personal decision. Of course, this situation is because we face in the country challenges that, especially for the sanction that has been imposed to the country.
Has anything changed since Joe Biden took office in the U.S.?
Unfortunately, no. The situation remains the same, but our government remains open to dialogue, and we really hope that those sanctions has been lifted or eased in some way, because that sanctions are really affect not only the Venezuelan economy, but also the general population in terms. And one of these consequences is the influx of migration, not only to Trinidad and Tobago, but to another countries, okay? So in the case of Trinidad and Tobago, the reasons, for the Venezuelans to come here is basically for economic reasons. It's not for refugees, it's not political persecution, it's nothing else. Sometimes the problem is misinformation, miscommunication, and sometimes in some, some social media that confuse, what is really are. But it's basically, I will say economic migrants, okay? It's not
I do
refugees.
believe that most of the Venezuelans that we see here do come for economic reasons, that, with the sanctions and the hardships in Venezuela just to access goods and services, and the cost, the inflation, that they're seeking opportunities where it's a little bit easier, or a lot easier, to just transact business and to be able to provide for their families. But don't you believe that over the years, we've had examples of, people being arrested, people being jailed by the Maduro government, that would make some people feel afraid and would want to say, what, I don't support the government, let me get out of this space.
When some people, are detained or put it in jail, basically is because they commit a crime. We're not talking about political persecution or something like that. Even if there is something political in the middle, but basically it's because the person, when the person has been put in jail, it's basically because the person commit a crime against public property, public disturbance, or something like that. Of course, cases that, when there is an abuse of authority or something like that, has been investigated, even, police officers and even personnel from the military has been put in jail because, when we determine that an abuse has been committed, the legal prosecution has been in place. But I don't, that's the reason that people, try to indicate that they coming from political persecution or something like that. This is basically something that have no basis, As I said before, the main reason for the people that, is leaving the country is for economic reasons, particularly in the case that the migrants that come to Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah. And, when you look at the situation, Ambassador, as I said, you've been here 3 years, we've seen the influx of migrants. Do they ever come to the embassy and say, well, listen, I'm not feeling safe in Venezuela, I fear for my life, how can you help? Do you get those kinds of responses from Venezuelan migrants here?
Well, that's the thing that is interesting because, when a Venezuelan national come into the embassy for any kind of assistance or, renewal of passport, of course, normally we do like a personal interview, because it's important for us to have an overview. What is the reason that this person is here? And I will tell you that 100% of the people, when we interview, the people say, well, we come from, we're looking for a job, we're looking for a new opportunity or something like that. So far, nobody say that is coming that has been in persecution or something like that. And it's interesting, let me tell you something. If that is the case, the wrong place to come is the embassy of Venezuela, because if you feel that it's a persecution against you, you don't want to, intention, or you don't have the intention to come to the embassy of the country that is supposed to,
right.
to give them protection.
Fully understanding that the ambassador is there at the pleasure of the president.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I definitely understand that. But you are moving from Trinidad. Where next?
Well, my next position is going to be Guyana. I have been appointed, designated as an ambassador to Guyana, which is a lovely country,
And as we were discussing off air, there are some border disputes between Venezuela and Guyana. So even like similar with Trinidad, while you were able to have a good time, as a person, is that it was very intense on the work side. Do you anticipate that same kind of intensity when you go across to
well, of
Guyana?
Course, yes, Guyana is a sensitive post because, we have this situation with the border controversy between the two countries, which is a process that has been, on the table for, for
time.
years, a lot of years. The important thing is that we have mechanisms under the supervision of the United Nations, in order to try to find a resolution, to that problem. Venezuela has been very clear that our position is, to maintain negotiations with Guyana and by diplomatic means in order to find a resolution to that border. But besides that, in the other hand, the important thing for us is to develop, a good cooperation with the government of Guyana, because we are neighbors, okay? We have a situation, but the dispute is one thing, and the cooperations and the level of friendships between Venezuela and Guyana has there, and that's the reason, to strengthen the cooperation, and and the process of the disputes have to be, under the supervision of the United States and the level of discussion between the two governments,
But Ambassador, I'm thinking that you're probably going to have to be playing some serious Russian roulette, because from where we sit and based on the agreements over the years, is that this territory that is in dispute belongs to Guyana. From the outside world and looking in, what is the issue that Venezuela wants to take hold of this territory. You know, it's never really been Venezuelan territory, just based on what I've read over the years. You can guide me, of course.
Right.
You know, but if Venezuela takes a position that this is ours, where really is the negotiation?
Well, the thing is, Venezuela, since the time of the independence, that territory was, under the jurisdictions of Venezuela since more than 200 years ago. And basically, the dispute was between England and Venezuela. The thing is, as soon as Guyana obtained the independence from Britain, the dispute has been changed now between Venezuela and Guyana. Venezuela have proof, historic proof, legal proof that that territory is Venezuelan territory. Okay, but in the other hand, it is important to, and I would like to emphasize on that we don't want to create a conflict. The position of Venezuela all the time has been peaceful, and that's the reason because we would like to reach an agreement with Guyana, in the basis of international law and in the basis of, of diplomacy. But, there is no discussions. If you see, well, we can spend the whole day, when I give you the explanation about the historics and the legal reason, because it's a very complex problem, okay? And unfortunately, it's a problem which is also its consequences of the colonialisms, that happened, in the past. But the thing is, we have this dispute, but our position is, based in international law, by diplomatic means, to try to reach an understanding of that. And that's the reason because also we have the Geneva Agreement, which is the basis of the negotiation between the two countries. That agreement was signed in 1966 and has been the legal framework, in order to try to reach an understanding between Venezuela and Guyana in that case.
Ambassador, one of the things I think of is that a lot of times we have high commissioners and ambassadors that enter countries, on behalf of their country to represent their people in that country, and we don't hear of them, we don't know them, maybe based on what's happening, diplomatically, maybe based on relationships, maybe based on issues between the two countries. But it wasn't quite that way between Venezuela and Trinidad and Tobago. As you said, with the influx of Venezuelans to Trinidad and Tobago, there was a lot to discuss. There was a lot to talk about. There was a lot to sort out.
Yes.
And therefore, we had the registration. But you raised something about, the trafficking of Venezuelans by Trinbagonians, and I just wanted to find out from you, how were you as an ambassador able to treat with that? Because sometimes I think we don't have the understanding of diplomatic channels.
Yes.
And when you have something as serious as that, how it is dealt with between governments.
Well, the thing, that's what I mentioned before, particularly, when you face a situation like this, and particularly, the traffic of persons, the collaboration between the two governments is fundamental. And the coordination between security forces in Trinidad and Tobago and security forces in Venezuela, the mechanisms, has been established. Even we tried to maintain meetings, well, of course, with the situation in the pandemic, most of these meetings have to be coordinated virtually at the level of, of the ministers in charge of security in Trinidad and Tobago and in Venezuela, in order to establish the mechanisms and the collaboration between the special forces of the two countries in order to tackle these criminal organizations. Because this is a case that, sometimes, unfortunately, is, criminal organizations in Venezuela and in Trinidad and Tobago that, of course, they work together in order to bring these people here. And it has been a hard work, but I will say that at this point, the level of collaboration between the two governments is very good in order to try to tackle this problem, in order to also to dismantle, these criminal organizations in Venezuela and here in Trinidad and Tobago.
Does it make it difficult for the collaborative process when you have the opposition of a country that doesn't necessarily support the relationship?
Well, this is something, of course, I am respectful of the internal affairs of Trinidad and Tobago, but I can speak about the sometimes the political position of the opposition in Venezuela. To try to put it in simple words, this is a very sensitive problem, even with very hard repercussions, for the victims, okay? And my opinion is when you have a situation like this and you try to politicize in some way, is the wrong move. This is a thing that, even if you are in an opposition situation, you have to work very close, with the government, because it's a transversal situation. You have victims from criminal organizations, okay? If you want to use that as a political weapon, this is wrong. This is not the way it should be. That's my opinion about that.
And in your 3 years, Ambassador...
And I'm sorry, Natalie, sorry for the interruption. And also, if you use these sins as a political issue, but also you create like a misconception about the problem, it's worse, because it doesn't help the victims and it doesn't help to tackle these difficult problems.
Can you say how many Venezuelans were trafficked in this country over the 3 years that you've been here?
Well, the numbers, the statistics is a particular number to give you. It is because we have two situations, okay? One is that the persons that come, like migrants, for economic reasons, okay? Even in some cases, those people are victims of the traffic, because as soon as you use illegal ways to come to Trinidad and Tobago, you are a victim, of people that traffic in you. If I put you in a boat, in an illegal boat, to come to Trinidad and Tobago, and you violate COVID protocols, regulation of immigration, this is human trafficking, okay? Yeah. This is one thing, but the other thing is the women that are bring to Trinidad and Tobago, and they employ by prostitution to working in bars. This is, I believe, the worst case, and those cases in particular has treated in a different way, because of course there is a criminal activity behind, there is an abuse, against women, and those particular girls, they need a particular treatment, not only from the investigations and so on. As soon as those girls are returned to Venezuela, they are put in psychological assistance, family assistance, because in some cases, those girls coming from dysfunctional families and so on. So it's a process, it's like a holistic problem that we have to deal with, okay? Because it's not only that you have to tackle criminal organization, you have to give an adequate treatment to the victim in order to reinsert that person in the society.
Ambassador, do you find that it helps the work you're doing, or it hurts the work you're doing, when you see the Venezuelan activists here in Trinidad and Tobago, and they talk about not economic migrants, but refugees and people who are being politically prosecuted, and that's why they're here? How does that, affect, how the relationship you have not only with the Venezuelans here, but affect diplomatic channels?
Well, people can have, personal views and political views. We are in democracy. We are in democracy in Venezuela. People can express whatever they say. If you see the media in Venezuela, the people can express any opinion that they have. But it's something that I would like to reiterate. That matrix of refugees has been dismantled. Because not only when we interview, even I will say that at this particular moment, this kind of political thing that tried to put like the Venezuelans are refugees, which they are not refugees. They are economic migrants. They come to Trinidad and Tobago. That made us, well, of course, it's not totally dismantled, but I will say that at this particular moment, the tensions, has been diminished in some way. And something which is also very important is the reconnection, yes, I will say reconnection of the Venezuelan community with the embassy, because when I arrived here in 2019, I have to face, a lot of misinformation with my fellow Venezuelans here in Trinidad and Tobago. And I have to tell you, honestly, that was a hard work in order to, first of all, that the people understand what is the reality here, and to find out exactly the reasons why the Venezuelans are really coming. Because of course, when I arrive and I see, sometimes when people approach to the embassy and they and they ask me, since that is a hold on, I'm sorry, but you have totally, the information that you receive is totally wrong. Mm-hmm. And I believe that work has been very important in order to have this reconnection of the Venezuelan community here with the embassy, which at the same time has been helpful in order to, to show, what is the reality of the reason that why these people is coming here, and also to try to make more easy for the Venezuelans who are abroad, and in order to facilitate their stay here.
Right.
Something like that,
yeah.
I think so.
Ambassador, we are out of time, but I definitely, just before we go, I want to ask you, what do you think is your biggest accomplishment in the 3 years you've been here?
Well, I think one of the most, the important thing, when I mention about the reconnection of the embassy with my community, the things to facilitate, to assist in the best way the Venezuelans national here, to understand that they have to regularize, if you want to stay in Trinidad and Tobago, and which is basically one of the normal things when you have an embassy abroad, and also to try to assist in the best way possible if you cannot stay here but you want to go back to the country, to provide the safest way to do that, and also to strengthen the relation with Trinidad and Tobago, which is a fundamental when you have a diplomatic relation. I believe this has been an important accomplishment for I would say for during my time, and especially in this difficult situation that we face in as a country, and economic hardships, and this negative repercussion that we have for the problem of the sanctions.
All right. Ambassador, I want to wish you all the best on
Thank
your
you.
stint in Guyana. Enjoy yourself, enjoy the people, enjoy the food. And where the diplomatic ties are concerned, may you be able to bridge the gap and help to smooth out those particular situations.
Thank
so
you.
all the best to you.
Thank you very much.
Outgoing Venezuelan Ambassador Carlos Perez talking to us about his stint here in Trinidad and Tobago as ambassador for 3 years. His next stop, Guyana. You may want to pay attention to what's happening there. But we take a break and we'll be back with you.